Hey everyone, I'm back in another video. Today I'm going to be doing an unboxing from a couple knives I got from my friend Steven from Sanctified Leather. He was kind enough to give me a good price on these, and I'm excited to open these up and check out exactly what he sent me. I got my Kershaw Bel Air opening this one today. Open it up from this side. He packaged it very nicely. I always appreciate good packaging. You never have to worry about it. Alright, let me crack this open. Here's one knife. It is a Kershaw. The other knife is in this wrap. And he wrote me a little note. Always nice to get a personalized note when you're buying for somebody. Makes you feel a little special. So let's get all this cleaned up. Here's one. Here's the other one. He definitely wrapped it up tight. That's alright. Keeps the knife very safe. Alright, so there is one of the knives. It is my first buck knife, actually. I do not have any bucks, but that's a buck knife. And then this is another Kershaw. See, this is the Federalist. I'll show y'all that in a minute. 4320 is the item number for the Federalist. And it's a pretty cool one. And these are, the Federalist is made in the USA. All Kershaws with the sticker, the made in the USA sticker, are made in the USA. If they're made in China, they won't have that sticker, as you might guess. Alright, just a little bit of paperwork in here. Let's see what this is all about. It's just their normal paperwork they put on their knives. That looks like a cryo on that paper right there. Alright, let's get into these knives. Here is the Kershaw Federalist. He did have a bead on it when he sold it. I don't know if I'll keep this on there. I'm not really that big of a lanyard fan, but it is a nice bead on there as well. And then here is the buck. I think it's the 105 or 501, sorry. Buck 501. Let's see if we can zoom in and check that tang stamp out. 501, and then there is another symbol right next to it. I think those symbols are for dating it. And then, of course, buck knives are made in the USA. Most of them, at least. All the good ones are, in my opinion. Anything on the back? Nothing on the back. I think all buck knives are going to be like a 420C, 420HC stainless, kind of like a case knife. They have very similar steels in their lineups. And it has this really pretty rosewood. I would think this is rosewood. Looks like it. Very pretty handles. 2 pins keeping the handles in there, and then you can see the pins keeping the pivot. And you can see the pin here keeping the bolster. Of course, same exact size. Oh, there's 2. There's 1 and 2 for those bolsters. And there's the other one on the other side. And these are lockbacks. Check this fit and finish. Very tight on these back springs. No gaps looking. I'm going to look in the light. A little bit of light peeking through, but that's nothing to be wary of. It's kind of a normal amount of wear in the fit and finish. These do have a satin belt grind on that. You can see kind of the lines. And these actually do have a really nice bevel on that edge, and it's very pointy. It's always nice to see a pointy edge. Nail neck, of course, and lock back. You just press down on the lever down here, and you can just fold it down. Blade centering is okay. You can push it and make it centered. See if there's any blade grind or blade wobble. A little bit of blade play, but it's still a firm lockup. There's no front and back, which is what you wouldn't want, but side to side is all right. All right, so that is the buck 105. And here is the Kershaw Federalist. It is a flow-through design with this kind of black plastic back spacer here, kind of like the Kershaw Leak. It has a black plastic back spacer. Kind of has the shield-looking pivot cover on this side. And let me grab some hardware and we can do a hardware check. I'm going to assume T6 and probably T8 for the pivot. I got T8 here. Yep, T8 on the pivot. These are, looks like the Chicago ends of these. Let's try these. And these are T6. So yes, T8 for the pivot, T6 for the body screws. That's pretty typical for most every knife you're seeing right now. It's going to be T6 and T8 screws. The occasional T8 pivot and T8 body screws are nice though. So let's open this up. You can see this pretty micarta. It's kind of a canvas micarta. It does have a nice texture to it. It's not super smooth like some micartas. You can see a peek at that USA flag showing that it is USA made. Let's check this blade centering. Blade centering looks nearly perfect. I would say it's straight down the middle. It's not touching any of the sides of the springs, which is nice. Very thin blade. You can see that it's a very thin blade. A little bit of jimping up here as well, which for a slip joint, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, very easy pull. Has a half stop here. And then it locks in, well, kind of locks in. Right there at the end, has this big clip point blade. It's kind of a drop point. It's a very large, thin blade. Has a high grind. Let's see if it's looks like a high flat grind. I think it's a flat grind. From what I'm seeing, I'm going to say it's a high flat. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a high flat grind on this blade of CPM 154. So that's different than 154 CM. This is the powder version of that steel, which increases all the stats of the steel. Blade retention goes way up, corrosion helps, and toughness goes up as well. That little circle here is their in-house design logo, and then the 4320 is the pattern number for the Federalist. That little box next to it with the different shapes, that is the In U.S.A. logo, and of course it says USA next to it, and with the flag that means it is a USA made product, which I would rather have all USA made stuff in my collection. But this is not a standard slip joint. It works on a similar to slip joint mechanism, but this is actually a double detent lock bar. So it's very easy to open and close, but you just don't want to press down, which that's why the jimping just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because if you're here and you're doing a push cut, it's fine, but if you push it any farther, that thing's closing. So not really a fan of that jimping. Seems kind of unneeded, but I do want to see if I can see this double detent in there. Maybe if I zoom in, we can check it out. So you can see two little round things right on both ends here. Those are the detent balls. See if we can close this and kind of see where it's. You can see those balls rolling with the knife, and there should be two little spots where those detents sit on the tang of the blade. So whenever you get it to a certain point, those balls should click into place. All right, so they're in place, and now it is considered locked, and it's not going to move until you override those detents, which is fairly easy. I'm doing it like nothing. But as long as you're not being dumb, this double detent system works very well. It's very similar to the case, what is it? The name slipped my mind. There's the Longhouse, and then the other one they released. I can't think of what it is, but it has a double detent system just like this as well. So let's get some stats going on at least the Federalist. So it has a 3 1/4 inch blade. Of course, it's CPM 154, 58 to 60 HRC. Very thin blade, coming in at 0.088 inches. So very thin, very slicey blade. You can just look at it and tell how thin it is. Handle length is 4 1/4. So it is a full-size knife. It definitely fills up your hands. No matter how big your hands are, really, it's going to fill up your knife nicely. Fill up your hands nicely. Of course, Micarta. Entire length, blade tip to very bottom of the handle is 7.5 inches long, and it comes in at 2.1 ounces. So I would consider that an ultralight knife, very, very light. You can close this with one hand very easily. You just don't want your finger in the way. And you can feel that detent when you're pressing it down as well, where it keeps it closed. You can hear it too. It just kind of snaps in place securely, and it's not going anywhere until you open it. So, really cool knife. I also have some to compare it with. Of course, I opened it with the Kershaw Bel Air, USA made knife, very similar to the Benchmade Bug Out. So you can see that the Federalist is going to be a little longer, pivot to pivot. Blade length is longer and cutting edge is longer. Handle length is longer. So that is the Bel Air. Another kind of modern slip joint is the Benchmade Weekender, which is kind of in the same lines as this one. Very similar handle lengths, with the Federalist being just a tiny bit longer, but it also has this micarta. This one's is smoother, but this one has more of a canvas feel. It is a lot rougher. It kind of gives it more texture than this one. I won't open both blades, but I'll open this main clip point. Federalist is a little longer on blade length and cutting edge, and handle length it is longer. So that's a very good comparison. This one is a traditional slip joint mechanism where it works with tube with this spring and it puts tension on the blade compared to the double detent. These do have half stops as well. And then the ultimate comparison is the Benchmade Bug Out. Blade length is longer on the Federalist. The Benchmade Bug Out has barely over 3 inches of steel. And the Federalist, the camera's kind of being misleading. I'll hold these up kind of next to each other like this. You can see the accurate length. Cutting edge, pretty close, but the Federalist does come with more blade. So, and then I have a traditional slip joint that I just got. This is the Kershaw Iredale. You can see it has a laminate micarta handles, not a canvas. So this one's very smooth. You can kind of feel a little bit of texture on there, but this is you can see that this is just a plain slab of micarta on there, and it's a lot rougher. This one's very smooth. Of course, this is a traditional slip joint with brass liners and steel back springs. So, of course, this is going to be a lot shorter, being the traditional style of knives. So, that is the Kershaw Federalist. Very cool knife. Very comfortable. It fits very well in your hands. It's very light. It's made to use. You just have to be careful. You know, it'll come out just like that. You just have to be careful with a knife like this that doesn't have a super strong locking mechanism, but it's just held in place with tension. You just gotta be real careful. So that's the USA made Kershaw Federalist. Very cool knife. And then the Buck 501. You can open these with one hand too, kinda. That is the Buck 501. There's these two right next to each other. It's actually a pretty big knife. I think it's similar to the Buck 112. I think the Buck 112 might be a little bigger though, but I do not know that for sure. And of course the Buck 110 is going to be a lot bigger. Buck 110 would probably be pretty close to the Federalist. I don't have a Buck 110. Shame on me for not having a Buck 110, but it is a huge knife and I don't necessarily need one. So, thank y'all for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure y'all like and subscribe, and actually go follow Sanctified Leather on YouTube as well. He does awesome leather work, and he's a really great guy. So, thank y'all. I'll see y'all on the next video.